3, 2.
Hello everybody and welcome once again to the OSCA Truck Series. Tonight, it's round 11. It's the opening week of the playoffs, and here tonight, we're at the ID Racing 75 at Phoenix Raceway. And along with me tonight is Kenneth Bueno. I'm your host, Michael Goodman. And Kenneth, things are going to be heating up in the desert tonight as we get ready for 75 laps of hopefully some crazy action here tonight as we kick off round 1 of the OSCA playoffs.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be very interesting, Mike. Happy to be here once again. And of course, now things are starting to get very tight because we are in the midst of a large playoff battle between 8 drivers. They've raced all season 4 to get to this point, and now they have to execute it. And for most, we usually see just about maybe 2 races or maybe more than 3 races or a handful to decide the playoffs, but now we only have 2, so you have to execute these 2 races in order to try to get to the championship in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, we'll look at the tail of tape here a little bit. First, we'll look up the playoff schedule here. As you see, the round of 8, the 2 races tonight at Phoenix. Then we go down to the Lone Star State of Texas to battle it out, and that will be the cutoff before the finale at Kentucky. And tonight, for the ID Racing 75, we do have 2 halves, 37 laps in the first feature and 38 laps in the second. The top 3 will invert, and the start times, sim times for those are 7 p.m. for the first half and 8:15 in the second. And as we're getting closer down to this season here, it's should be ramping up. But he will take a look at Phoenix Raceway here in Avondale, Arizona. Track length a mile long, and the banking is turn 1 and 2, 8 to 9 degrees with the progressive bankings. Turns 3 and 4, 10 to 11 degrees progressive banking. The track opened up in 1964. And Kenneth, as we look at the playoffs or the standings here, Gerald Campbell retook the points lead right before the cutoff race there. Vincent Isabella's in second. As you see the guys that will be duking it out, the 8 drivers, as everything's locked up even going into this race here tonight. I believe maybe a couple of wins might be separating them a little bit, but all in all there, we have a pretty stout playoff lineup. Should be fun to see.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. These are guys who we've been talking about all season, Mike. I mean, guys like Gerald Campbell, dominant all season long. Vincent Isabella starting to pick up the pace these past couple of weeks. Blake Barney with wins of his own. And then these guys started to point their way in. Adam Tepe has had some stealthy, consistent runs that has put him in this situation to run for a championship. Guys like Gabriel Edwards, David Westergreen, Steven Schumann, Harrison Tylan, all of those guys have pointed their way in. And it's going to make for a lot of fun because now you're mixing the guys who've won races, who have been dominant, versus drivers who can start to come up out of nowhere and start pulling off these wins. But right now, we're about to get trackside as the field is about to grid up.
Yeah, we'll take a look at your starting lineup for the ID Racing 75 here at Phoenix Raceway. And on your front row, it's going to be the 00 car of Blake Barney. He's going to have Big Kitty on board with him tonight, hopefully to get a win. And alongside him is the 36 of Ryan Bad Boy Lutz.
Behind them, you'll find Riley Marabello starting on the inside of row number 2 with a 27.684. And Dylan Gooden in the 75, who got 3rd place finishes last week. He will start 4th on the grid in this first race.
And in row number 3 is going to be the 63 of Storm Patterson starting 5th. And alongside him is the young gun, the 52 of Gabriel Edwards starting alongside.
Row number 4 will feature the 32 of Josh Duke in the 7th spot. And rolling off from 8th will be the 6th, your current points leader and playoff leader, Gerald Campbell, with 3 wins on the season.
And in row number 5 is going to be the number 2 truck of David Westergreen. And in 10th spot is going to be the 37 of Glenn Bundren Jr. looking to get that win.
Adam Tepe, playoff driver in the 96 machine, will roll off from 11th, followed by Harrison Tylan in the 23, who will start from the outside of row 6.
And in row number 7, starting 13th, number 2 in the points, it's the number 42 truck of Vincent Undermy Isabella. And it's starting 14th is the 3 truck of the short track kid, Austin Beers.
Then back to row 8, this is the last driver to set time. Thomas KBueno in the 60 will round out the grid of the drivers who did take time on the racetrack. Those included who did not take time include Dallas Myhan, Blaze McKinney, believe Damian Leininger, Steven Schumann, Chris Jordan, and Douglas Wolcott, your 21 cars on the grid.
Yeah, and tonight here at Phoenix for the ID Racing 75, got 37 laps here in heat number 1. The big keys to this track here tonight is going to be try to stick to that bottom, and how low can you go in that dog leg on the backstretch. I know current Cup track layout is in the middle of the dog legs, the start-finish line, but here, as you see the pace truck getting ready to dive off, it'll be on what the real-life backstretch will be, and Blake Barney will lead him to the green flag here in the ID Racing 75 at Phoenix Raceway. And on the loud pedal side by side is going to be Blake Barney and Ryan Lutz diving into turn number 1, and it looks like Lutz is going to have a good run on that outside, see if he can make it stick. And a caution already out on the initial start. It looks like the 23 truck of Harrison Talion might have gotten some trouble on the initial start to bring out the checkered, or the yellow flag. A little early for that checkered flag, Kenneth, but we'll take a look at the KBRN replay just to see what happened. And diving into turn number 1. Looks like Beers came in a little hot, made a little contact with the 23, and around he goes. Ooh, and a little contact with the wall. But I think maybe not too much damage. It looks like Harrison will be able to keep on trucking here.
Yeah, and just a little bit of damage to the front end, but this is not a sign to behold for the 23 of Harrison Talion. We talked about him already as a playoff driver, and you see him there, contact with the 3 of Austin Beers, sent him going around, and luckily for him, I don't think there's too much of a damage on his Chevrolet Silverado, but that slight tap can just send you around so quickly, just send you right up in the outside wall. For Harrison Talion to happen to be that exact same way, and already on lap 1, we already have our first caution.
Yeah, action going on early here, and it's hard because you everywhere on this track it's so flat. You want to see what you can get. Usually the groove diving down on the bottom, but you see Lutz there on the start too, taking the lead over Blake Barney on the outside. But usually the fanning out kind of goes right around here where you see Ryan Lutz at in that dog leg. But looked like going into turn 1, Kenneth, they were already trying to spread it out 3 wide into turns 1 and 2, and sometimes that's not the best way to get around this Phoenix International Raceway.
Yeah, definitely, but you do have some space. And we talk about the dog leg here at Phoenix. That's one of the characteristics that this track holds, is that on the back straightaway or on the front straightaway in real life, but the back straightaway still in the sim, you can use some of that space in the dog leg to try and go 3, 4 wide and maybe make some space of your own instead of having to use the narrow part of the racetrack in order to get around. This track is not necessarily narrow compared to a lot of the others we've been to. I think Dover, Martinsville, a lot of the other ones have shown that just how things can get clogged on a track like those. But here at Phoenix, you have a little more space, and at least for that simple record, it was just one truck, so at least nobody else got piled in. We'll try to get another restart, maybe get through 1 and 2 this time.
Yeah, hopefully we can get through 1 and 2 on this restart, as we're going to be coming to lap number 5 of 37 here in heat number 1 of the ID Racing 75. Round 1 of the playoffs, a lot of implications going on for a lot of these drivers. And right now, Ryan Lutz looking to play the spoiler here, as we haven't seen him in a couple weeks, but he took that lead on the initial start on that outside. This time, he'll be starting on the inside, coming to the green, and we'll see who's going to get the good restart coming up as the pace truck's getting ready to dive down onto pit road, as these boys slowly coming to the start-finish line. As you see, the pace truck dives off, and here we go on coming to lap number 5 of 37. We're back, green flag racing, as Ryan Lutz is going to get a good jump on Blake Barney going down into turn 1. He's going to dive right on to the top, arc it all the way down to the bottom line. And the 36 truck is going to be your leader with the 00 Blake Barney underneath. You see how low some of these guys are going, all the way down, almost to the inside wall, down that dog leg. And right now, look, you see a couple tires below the yellow line, as we see another caution coming out here on lap number 5. Looks like that's Damian Leininger and the 96 of Adam Tepe involved in that wreck. See what for, ooh, and heavy damage for the 12 truck, as you see him smoking going down pit road. So kind of where that area happened is, you know, we were talking about it, Kenneth, spreading out so much in the back of that dog leg. I wonder if, ooh, Westergreen was involved in the 2 truck. It's going down that dog like things spread out, but man, Fandel get pretty tight. And oh man, Westergreen in hard in the wall. Leininger goes around, makes a little contact with the 96. Oh, it was. I can't tell who's in that 5 truck offhand. Man, oh man, what's that?
Yeah, you see exactly just how it starts right here. They were going 3 wide, and it actually began up ahead the road. That's Blaze McKinney in the 87. You see him in new colors tonight. Okay. He just joined Proximity Racing. But you see him up the road here, getting loose on the racetrack, just holding onto the truck and still swiveling around as they head to the dog leg. A little bit of contact with Westergreen, then ricochets into Glenn Bunger, and then goes back down to Westergreen. Big contact. I think that was the 8 underneath him as well. And then the 87 goes for a wild ride.
That's what threw me off. It was not the 5, it was the 60 truck of KBueno that took that hard hit there in the flame truck. Kind of looked like old Mike Skinner truck. And the 87 of Blaze McKinney kind of threw me off. Some of the new colors here tonight, a lot of new colors for these drivers, and a couple hard hits for that 2 truck of Westergreen. McKinney up on his side, but it did appear that number 2 in the points, Vincent Isabella in that 42 truck, was able to sneak through that as well. So, but you know, for Westergreen, he was barely made it into the playoffs. He's going to have a tough start to the playoff season here again tonight, as sometimes down on his luck, able to sneak his way into the playoffs, but his luck hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot here tonight. But a lot of damage for a lot of trucks. You even see that 60 truck of KBueno with the heavy damage to his right front. As we get the 1 to go signal, we'll take the green flag once again on lap number 9 of 37. And Kenneth, hopefully we can get past lap number, or one full green flag lap here, as with all this fanning out. And you know, I think these guys are ready to do some multi-groove racing right off the bat. I think we could see some awesome racing if we get going here. And Ryan Lutz is going to get ready to take the field back to the green, lead him to the green flag. Again, Big Kitty, you see him on that 00. See if he's going to make the right call. See if he can take down Ryan Lutz. Ryan Lutz, kind of a part-time driver in this series, but when he's out there, he's fast. He's crazy as the pace truck dives down pit road. Ryan Lutz is going to lead him to the green flag. And green flag's back out here on lap 9 of 37 of the ID Racing 75 here at Phoenix. Lutz gets another good restart. Blake Barney able to tuck in right behind him. Riley Marabello, he's going to file into the 3rd spot. As you see how low Ryan Lutz goes, about as low as you want to go there, as you see the rest of the field fanning behind him as they dive down into turn number 3. Looks like we're going to get our first green flag lap in as they come down to the stripe on lap number 10. And one thing I was going to point out right before the caution came out before, Kenneth, was you see some of these guys, they might be ducking down a couple tires below that yellow line, below the racing groove, to try to get that car to rotate through some of these flatter corners.
Yeah, and that's a thing that really comes when you go to a track like Phoenix. You see right here, especially in turns 3 and 4, which is 1 and 2 in real life, this part is about 8 to 9 degrees progressive all the way to the outside wall. So it's a relatively flat part of the track, and you have a good amount of space to maneuver, but you also don't have a lot of rotation, especially since you don't have the banking to help you. And 1 and 2 here, it's a lot easier to maneuver, as you see as you ride on board with the 6 of Gerald Campbell and watching how he's maneuvering this racetrack. You do see a couple of drivers go all the way to the apron, not necessarily as effective as it is in real life, but using that white line is the best way to go around these type of corners.
Yeah, as you see, right now they might be able, the tires might be fresh enough, you might not totally need it now. Maybe something that some of these guys are testing out here and there, but once these tires wear out, they're definitely going to be something to try to get used to get these cars to rotate. That's, I think, going to be a big key for some of these drivers, especially if we don't get a couple more yellows here to finish out this heat, is who's going to manage the tires the best, who's going to save that right front. Again, that's where tire management can be key. And oh wow, we look out the back here. Oh, it looks like there's contact between the 32 of Josh Duke and Austin Beers. And oh, there's even more contact as they go into one, and they're both able to save it. Man, there was some heavy contact between the 3 and the 32. Everything keeps on rolling right now, but man, it looked like the 32 of Josh Duke was just shoving Beers into turns 1 and 2, and both of them get a little sideways coming on it to able to save it, but a lot of track position lost for that 32 of Josh Duke as we go back up into the lead, and Ryan Lutz continuing to hold on to a 0.2 of a second advantage over the 00, and Big Kitty Big Kitty and Blake Barney. Had to throw a Big Kitty reference in there as much as I can, Kenneth. But right now, looks like it's kind of riding out 1, 2, 3 of Lutz, Barney, and Marbello as we come to lap 15.
And you know what I noticed? I think it's been sort of a consuming way that Big Kitty has taken over that 00 truck. We saw, to open this season, for the first handful of races, you normally saw the ID Racing colors. It was just a normal or paint race truck. It still was a beautiful Toyota Tundra nonetheless. But then, all of a sudden, goes to that white scheme with Big Kitty on the hood. And I guess now in the playoffs, Big Kitty has fully consumed the race truck and is now all over it with the red background. So at least maybe giving some extra luck to Blake Barney, currently still riding second. And he hasn't necessarily fallen off the race leader. He's been right there, keeping within time. They ran around the same sort of lap times that last time by, although Barney was just a little bit faster. And here may be the move coming for the race lead. He'll try to look to the inside on the dog leg going into turn 3, but not going to be enough. And Lutz will shut the door for the moment.
He shuts the door for the moment, and Big Kitty and Blake Barney are going to have to wait here one more lap, but he is right on that bumper of the 36 truck of Ryan Lutz, and to see if he can get that advantage. If we look, see the progress of Gerald Campbell, our points leader, sitting in 5th right now, and just to note, second place guy in points, Vincent Isabella, he's riding back in the 10th spot at the moment, but still a lot of green flag racing to go here as we're on lap number 17 of 37 of heat number 1. And one thing I was going to say too about as we look out the onboard camera of Gerald Campbell is I believe still blocking, maybe going on ahead there between the 36 and 00. And it looks like Barney's going to take a look on the inside of Ryan Lutz. Nothing able to do quite yet, but with that truck there, I'm wondering if he's going to have kind of like a Corey LaJoie at Daytona where he had his own face on the hood a couple of years ago. I wonder if Big Kitty's just going to be the whole hood and front end of the car at some point. I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
You know what? If Blake Barney makes a championship race, he has all rights to do whatever he wants with this racetrack. It does not matter what it's going to look like as long as he can perform. Right now, he's doing just that. But Riley Marabello has also caught up to this group as well. So while these two have been aggressively fighting for the lead up front at the halfway mark of this first race, Riley Marabello has stealthily but surely put on a run that could pose a challenge to both of these drivers if push comes to shoves. And also with Storm Patterson, Joe Campbell, they're now side by side for position. So at least for the moment, we have a couple drivers that are still relatively fast, even on this semi-long run, that if we get a late yellow, this could push things into a different scenario here, change the complexion of this first race.
Yeah, and the complexion could change very quickly. We've seen, in some of these races early on in the OSCA Truck Series schedule, between the 36 and 00, they're not necessarily rivals, but they like to race each other really hard, so there's could be some excitement if the 00 can get to the back bumper of that 36. And you see go through the field here, and there's the 37 truck of Glenn Bundren Jr. trying to take Vincent Isabella for that 10th spot, work his way into the top 10, and we talked to him and see how bad he wants to win one of these races and hasn't been able to quite do it just yet, and right now kind of mired back into the pack again, working his way up past Vincent Isabella for that 10th spot, and maybe setting himself up to slowly but surely methodically work his way up through the field. And you see Vincent Isabella rocking vintage Kyle Busch Truck Series paint scheme there. The Makasawi Casinos, I think that's how you pronounce it. I might have
Mikosuki.
Mikosuki, there we go. Casinos and resorts. Always kind of fun to see some of those cars. The old James Finch in the Cup Series logo or car there. And as of right now, back up to the lead. It looks like Ryan Lutz is now pulling back away just a little bit, about 0.3 of a second over Blake Barney. And right now, it's kind of standing pat with some single file racing. But again, I'm kind of going to wonder with as we get closer and closer here, we got about 14 laps to go. Tires might be a big thing for some of these boys as heat number 1 winds down.
Yeah, we still got about 13 laps to go until this first race is concluded. But I will note also that we do have the caution clock in effect, and as by the officials, we have about 4 minutes left on it. So we are getting fairly close to the caution clock and bringing the field back up together, and that would surely help drivers like Steven Schumann, who's one of the last drivers that pointed his way in to the playoffs, and now he's currently riding 14th, riding around where Josh Duke is ever since Duke had that incident. Will Austin Beers, he's another playoff driver, 52 of Gabriel Edwards. He's doing a lot better in the 7th spot, trying to hunt down the 75 of Dylan Gooden. So right now, Mike, every single point theoretically matters here, even if you're going for just one position here, and if you're not going with some non-playoff drivers, every position is an extra point, and that's really going to be benefits, especially with the fact that we only have 2 races in the playoffs. So if you're going to want to act to get to the championship, you have to act now.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of different grit from some of these drivers here tonight, you know, kind of working through maybe some more damaged cars instead of parking and just waiting for that second heat to get a better luck in that next go-around, as we ride on board with the 63 truck of Storm Patterson, who's currently riding in 4th. So yeah, every spot's gonna matter, and some of these guys, you know, some of these guys are out here playing spoiler out here tonight who haven't made the playoffs or who are just kind of part-time guys here in this OSCA Truck Series. So we'll see how this is gonna play out, as we're gonna see maybe some desperation, and if that caution clock does come out here before this heat ends, I'm sure there's going to be some strategy involved, and we know what Big Kitty, he likes to make some gambles, and as he's kind of fallen off that 36 truck's rear bumper almost to a full second now, there might be some strategy involved to try to get ahead of him if that time if that does come about. And as you see Ryan Lutz continue to lead as we come to lap as I believe I just heard, they're under a minute before the caution clock comes out. So it more than likely will come out here with under 10 laps to go, Kenneth. And you know, we've seen some gambling, you know, at Vegas, you know, in Sin City. That's kind of where you want to gamble. But I wonder if they're going to bring that out down here to the desert in Phoenix once that caution clock does come out.
Yeah, it may come out here very soon, so we're already about 2 minutes under, so at least for Ryan Lutz, he's pulling away for now, but we've seen it before that he's lost the lead and lost the heat win solely based off of a late yellow that brings things out and bunches the field together. I think for Lutz, right now, at least knowing that the caution clock will come out is just all about putting the distance and just continuing to hit his marks. He was very close with Blake Barney at one point, but Barney is now starting to fall off, and now with about 7 laps to go, there's the caution clock in effect. Caution is out, no incidents on the racetrack, and now we get to see the big calls on pit road. Does everybody go in? Does somebody stay out? And if so, how big of a risk are you willing to take, especially as a playoff driver?
Yeah, playoff driver, you're going to wonder if they're going to take chances to try. Even if you're Blake Barney, you know, you did have that short run speed. Do you just take the 4 tires, start behind Ryan Lutz, or maybe hope you can beat him off pit road? It'll be interesting to see if there is any strategy, as you've seen the field kind of spread out there quite a bit. As a lot of the tire fall off, it's been about I mean, from Ryan Lutz, I think from his best lap to his last lap was about 1.2 seconds of fall off. So I don't think anyone's going to stay out and take no tires. I don't think that's going to be the correct call to make, although we've been wrong with that before. But I think you'd at least have to take 2 if you're going to gamble here on the pit strategy, as we see the field dive down pit road as Ryan Lutz leads them down, and see who's going to do what as they hit pit road. And here they go. And Kenneth, do you expect to see any different strategies as these guys are working their way down to their pit stalls?
To be honest, I was probably expecting at least one driver to stay out, but I think nobody's really taking that risk. Everybody's pretty much going down pit road. You see Ryan Lutz go up on the jacks, everybody getting 4 fresh tires and fuel. I believe they'll be able to make it all the way, so I don't think they're going to fill it with fuel. Blake Barney will be out first. I believe he took 2 tires only on that stop. Storm Patterson, Glenn Bundren also took that call. So at least, Mike, while no drivers stayed out, these drivers did make some shorter calls on pit road to lengthen or shorten their pit stop time. Ryan Lutz, though, falls to 4th in this exchange.
Yeah, he'll be aggressive, try to get around those 4 guys that are going to be ahead of him. As you see, Big Kitty made the pit call. They took 2 tires. And I think the best thing for him, that he wasn't the only one to take 2 tires. You have Storm Patterson and Glenn Bundren, who also followed suit and took 2 tires on pit road. And one thing I did notice, I think the 75 truck slid through his pit box a little bit. He was in 4th. He's going to fall all the way back into the 8th position. That is Dylan Gooden. And so he's going to have to work his way back up through the field here in a little bit. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what 2 tires can do. At least, this is the time, you do have that second 38-lap heat coming up, in a couple laps here in a few moments. So at least I think in this first heat you can see if it works. This is where you can find out, kind of gamble a little bit, especially for the guys like Storm Patterson and Glenn Bundren. But Big Kitty, being a playoff driver, Blake Barney is. I think I'm just gonna call Blake Barney Big Kitty now. He's stealing the show. But Big Kitty made the call, take 2 tires, and risky gamble. So if it doesn't pay off, could really affect his title chances.
Yeah, definitely could. But the fact that he does have a couple more drivers that do have 2 tires along with him probably will soften the blow, and at least it won't be as bad as taking no tires on pit road. I think that would be the biggest concern if you're Blake Barney. If you're a driver that does not stay on pit road, you're probably going to get swallowed by the field. The good news is they have one side of the race truck with fresh tires, so they won't be as slow. They probably will be a little bit slower, but it probably will equalize out within the next 3 laps. So we'll just have to find out. This is going to be a very differently structured restart. We're used to seeing Ryan Lutz up at the front in this first race. He'll be back in 4th. And look at Glenn Bundren on the inside of row 2. We'll see if he can try to do anything, or if Blake Barney can try to hold on for this first heat win and put himself in a better spot coming to the next race at Texas.
Yeah, we'll settle this out with 3 more laps here as Blake Barney is going to take them to the green flag to settle out heat number 1 of the ID Racing 75. See if he can bring ID Racing home the race win as they take the green. A good jump by Blake Barney. That's just what he needed with these 2 tires. As you see Ryan Lutz, he's trying to battle his way. He's trying to get into that 3rd spot and stuck on that outside lane. Didn't get the best restart. Glenn Bundren Jr. goes around, and the caution is out, as it looked like he was trying. I don't know if he made contact or someone made contact with him as he spun it around, but he was trying to dig real hard to keep in that 3rd position on those 2 tires. As you see, he's currently in 13th. He did the restart in 3rd position. We'll take a look at the KBRN replay here to see exactly what happened going down into turn 1. And look at Campbell and Lutz, Patterson getting into each other. It looks like Marbella might have made a little contact, and I don't know if that was a delayed or maybe trying to push it just a little bit too much. Take another look here. As Marbella, you can see, made a little bit of contact and affected, I think, Bundren's exit coming out of turn 2, ready to head to that dog leg. Maybe just upset his car just enough. Yeah, you see, I think you've seen a little bit of that wiggle as you ride on the rear bumper cam of Glenn Bundren Jr. See the contact here, and just a little bit later around he goes. So it appears it might have just upset his car just enough to make him lose it there. What do you think there, Kenneth?
I actually don't think Marabella really hit him at all. I think if he probably gave him a tiny tap. As you see Bundren now gonna enter on pit road and try to fix that damage. Unfortunate for him, as he already was put in 3rd on that restart. But I don't even think Marabella really touched him at all. I think probably gave him a little bit of tap. But remember, these guys are trying to plant in the throttle on cold tires. And even again, for Glenn Bundren, he's on 2 tires. So he has one side of the race truck worn out on tires while the other one is completely cold and fresh. So you have sort of that disparity on either side of the truck. And I think just trying to plant the throttle out of turn 1, or turn 2 rather, just way too hard. Truck just got upset. And I think the tiny tap by Riley Marabello at least exacerbated things a little bit. And unfortunately, Glenn goes around. He'll fall back and probably going to have to reset his mind for the 2nd race. But much like it is now, there's one less truck to buffer between Blake Barney and Ryan Lutz, Mike. So I think now it's going to make it even more interesting because Lutz is going to start on the inside of row 2. Yeah,
he's going to be right behind Blake Barney on this restart. And for Barney, he's going to have a restart just like he had last time, and hope Ryan Lutz doesn't follow suit too much, as we know how aggressive that 36 truck of Ryan Lutz can be, because he wants to get this victory, especially steal one away from that 00 Blake Barney. So we could see one of those classic 00 and 36 00 versus number 36 battles that we've seen earlier on in the season. And I can't wait. I think this is going to be fun as we hit to a green-white checkered and see who's going to win it. Is it going to be Barney with the 2 tires, or is it going to be Lutz with 4? It's going to be interesting.
And don't count out Storm Patterson either. He also single-filed himself when we went green. So although Barney had a good jump, Patterson was just right behind him. And in any case, Patterson can also use that bumper to his advantage, maybe give a little bit of a shove to push the 00 out of the way. That's if it can defend well against Lutz in the meantime, or if Lutz just doesn't find a way by. And that's going to be solely dependent on how they end up on a restart, because like we've seen, Mike, the leader always gets the best start, always clears himself to the first corner. Unless the other driver right alongside him does a little bit of mind reading and actually gets it right coincidentally, or they know that they're going to go at the exact time. They don't know, and the leader usually just jumps off with a solid lead already. So it all depends on how Patterson and Lutz, maybe even Campbell, some guys even a further couple rows back, it's how they react. Remember, there's playoff drivers in this group. Gabriel Edwards, Vincent DeBella, they're a couple rows back, so watch out for them as well with 2 laps to go on a restart.
Yeah, as we're going to come to that green-white checkered restart, yeah, certainly don't count out that 6 truck of Gerald Campbell, as he's always a magician and finds his way up towards the front at the end of these races, as the pace truck's going to dive down onto pit road. We're going to settle it right here with the green-white checkered. Blake Barney's going to lead him to the green. He's going to get a good restart once again, as he's going to lead the field going down into turn number 1. And Patterson and Lutz are going to be side by side, and I think the fresh tires are going to be an advantage. No, I think Patterson's got a pretty good run on the outside. Now I think Lutz might clear him down the back of the dog leg, down the back stretch, and going into 3. As we're going to take the white flag, can Ryan Lutz catch the 00 Blake Barney? As we're going to head to the white flag, who's going to win it? As the 2-tire strategy might pay off. He's just got to hold on one more time around. But Ryan Lutz, he's going to drive in as hard as he possibly can on those fresh tires as they go down, as you see him fanning all the way down out through that dog leg. And here we go into turn number 3. Blake Barney still holds an advantage. You see Lutz, dives down. He drives in hard. Contact between the 0 and the 36. Lutz goes around. Campbell's involved. Wow, everyone's wrecking. It looks like Dylan Gooden's going to come out of nowhere to take win number 1. And wow.
And Isabella goes to second.
Wow. Second place for Vincent Isabella. Where did he come from out of that whole ordeal? Dylan Gooden. Again, I talked about him on that one pit stop, slid through his pit box, lost a couple spots, was able to stay through the mayhem, and man, he was able to get the victory, as your top 3 is going to be Dylan Gooden, Vincent Isabella, and Austin Beers. As you see here, Ryan Lutz and Blake Barney making contact, and mayhem ensues, and heavy contact for that 09 of Marbello. Man, oh man, what a wild finish. As you see, how did Dylan Gooden get through that mess? I thought maybe Gabriel Edwards was going to get a shot at the victory here as well, as they go side by side through the corner, and the C's part, just enough, maybe a little contact for that 75, and Isabella, and wow, Beers, I don't think he ever lifted as well, but just fell short into that 3rd spot. What a wild finish, Kenneth. And that Lutz and, there you see the finish. Just by, man, that's close between the 42 and 3. I thought maybe the 3 truck of Beers was able to get ahead, but I think the official scoring has him in 3rd.
Look at this! Look at this shot right here, coming into turn 3 and 4. This is from Austin Beers. Watch how everything clears him. Look at Lutz, Marabello, and almost could have been the winner at the end of it all. That is incredible driving by Austin Beers, and an incredible coincidental circumstance. He ends up 3rd, but still, what a way to finish this one.
Yeah, I don't think he even cracked that throttle coming out of turn 4 there. He was going to try to get those checkers or bring it home in a heap. That was that was his goal there. But what a wild finish there. We'll get everything sorted out here as they get warmed up for heat number 2. 38 laps will settle out the final stint of tonight's ID Racing 75. We'll take a quick break, and on the other side, we'll join you and get the grid set up for heat number 2.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Coverage of the OSCA Truck Series on the KBueno Racing Network is brought to you by iRacing. Join thousands of sim racers across the world and start your sim racing career today at iRacing.com. And by Supermix, concrete blocks on demand. And again, here today, we're welcome back as we're winding down the warm-up here, and we're getting ready for heat number 2. Austin Beers will be starting on the pole here for the ID Racing 75 heat number 2, 38 laps of green flag action. The sun's gone down a little bit further, and I don't know if things can get any hotter than what they did at the end of heat number 1.
That certainly is true, but we do have the invert here on the grid as well. So Austin Beers, who finished in 3rd, will be in 1st. So top 3 will invert, so that means Vincent Isabella will be 2nd, just like he was at the start-finish line in Heat 1. And Dylan Gooden, the winner of Heat 1, will be out to 3rd. And then I'll follow Gabriel Edwards, Josh Stooks around at the top 5. So this will be even more interesting now, Mike, because a good amount of the drivers there that were at the end that we were expecting to be dominant, leading the end of that race in Heat 1, most of them got into an incident somewhere in this field. So now they're mired back in traffic, whether it be about 5th or so on back, maybe in the Ritz of the top 10. Ryan Lutz is in 10th. And then you see Blake Barney, you see the Big Kitty Machine a little bit further back, Gerald Campbell, Adam Tepe. If anything comes here, Mike, this is a chance for guys who did not do good in Heat 1, especially in the playoff situation, start to get it here, and especially for guys like Vincent Isabella, Gabriel Edwards, and the 24 Schumann, this is their chance to shine.
Yeah, it's going to be a big time to shine, I think, for Vincent Isabella, who's kind of mired back around that 10th spot the whole night until the mayhem ensued. So he's going to get that second starting position. He's going to get that good track position on this restart and see if he can hold true. And again, we've seen Gerald Campbell work his way up towards the front there and getting involved in that wreck. He's going to start all the way back in 13th. And some of those other playoff guys, again, Blake Barney, looked like he was going to cruise his way to the win until that contact between him and Ryan Lutz. And again, those guys are going to be starting side or right next to each other, close to each other, as Lutz is going to restart in 10th and Barney in 11th. As Austin Beers, the short track kid, is going to lead him down to the green flag here in heat number 2 of the ID Racing 75s. We have 2 ID Racing trucks battling out side by side, diving into turn 1. And as we see in the initial restart, they go in both side by side, but Beers is going to get a good drive off the corner. And once again, oh man, Talion again on lap 1 goes around. I think Glenn Bundren Jr. and Marabello go around as well. So it was almost an instant replay of heat number 1 of that 23 truck going around on lap 1. Doesn't look like he has any damage to his truck. But you see the 09, I think the 09 and 37 got together once again as well, almost simultaneously, kind of a synchronized spin, as we'll take a look here on the KBRN replay of how that exactly unfolded. Almost maybe a chain reaction between these 3 trucks, as it looks like Talion drove in a little hard, and I think the 09 of Marbella was trying to avoid the 23. Let's see from this chopper cam, and yep, just make that little bit of a contact with the 37. I believe maybe even Blake Barney gets a contact with the 09, so just kind of an accordion effect trying to dodge that 23 truck. But I think fortunately it just looks like it was just solo spin, so I think all these guys, besides losing a bunch of track position, they shouldn't be too much worse for the wear.
Yeah, it's the same situation, I'd say, as the first lap incident on the first race, where it's kind of a similar incident. A couple drivers go around, slight contact, but no real damage to the trucks. I mean, hopefully it probably won't result in more time down pit road if they decide to take it. But you see it right there, just the situation again. Cold tires on the start. Saw Gabriel Edwards get his truck loose. He was able to keep it together. But unfortunately for Harrison Tylon, he already lost it. And then for the 09er Marabello, just trying to take evasive action and just did not have that route around without getting into Glenn Bundren. So unfortunately they all 3 go around, but good news for them, they're all clean. Most of them have non-damaged race trucks. You see Tylon, Bundren, and I believe they're the only 2 down pit road as Marabello stays out. So at least quickly again, we have another yellow to bring us out.
Yeah, it's gonna bring out another yellow here to start it off. Just getting through. It looks like Pierce maybe texting pacing here on the pace laps. But if you want to join the conversation with us up in the booth after that crazy first heat, you can ask us anything by using the hashtag AskKBRN. You can put any question you'd like followed by the hashtag, and we will answer it to the best of our ability. Again, that's hashtag AskKBRN for anything you want to ask. And I think one big key thing is maybe about those tires, as you've been mentioning, on those cold tires. If some of you guys are new to watching racing, got to heat those tires up to get a little bit of that grip in. And that's what can happen if on those cold tires, like you said, you don't quite have the grip in the rubber on those racing slicks. And sometimes it can get pretty dicey, like driving on ice in the wintertime. At least for guys up here in the Midwest. But the pace truck's going to dive down pit road as we're going to take the restart here on lap number 5 here of the ID Racing 75. Austin Beers with a good restart, and it looks like Vincent Isabella won't quite be able to tuck in right behind him as Gabriel Edwards is trying to take that second position away from Vincent Isabella as they're heading down into the dog leg. You see him fan out, and look at Blake Barney as he's driving. He's started all the way back in that 11th position as he's worked his way up into the top 5 already, as he's currently sits in 5th. So Big Kitty and Blake Barney, they're looking for their revenge. They were just about less than a quarter of a mile away from getting that victory, And now they're mad. They're going to drive their way up to the front. Currently working on the 75 truck, our heat number 1 winner. Let's see if he can get that 4th spot. And now they're even going to take it 3 wide, trying to take it 3 wide, going into 3. But it looks like they'll able to sort it out just a little bit here, as looks like Gooden is going, or Edwards is going to take the advantage. Oh, around goes the 4 truck of Chris Jordan. Heavy contact with the inside wall. Wasn't able to see if anyone else made contact with him. So a tough break for that 4 truck, as it looks like once again kind of just breaking loose coming on to turn 4 as his car just sharply veered towards that inside wall. And heavy damage for him, or not actually not too bad of damage. It looked like he was going towards that wall at a torrent piece. As we'll take a look at the KBRN replay, as he's coming out of turn 4 trying to gas it up, and just snaps around on him, and ooh, makes quite a bit of contact there, and luckily everyone else misses him. Even 2 truck, oh, maybe a little contact there with the 23, but nothing too serious. But man, for as hard as he hit that inside wall, we'll take a look on the onboard camera here of the 4 truck of Chris Jordan. You see right here, breaks it loose, rear tires, boom, inside wall. And I think just that little bit of contact once he starts to get going with that 23. But cosmetically, I don't think it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of damage, but I gotta wonder if that did a little bit of motor, or he's gonna have a little bit of engine issues after that hard of a hit to the inside wall.
He may have, and you'll probably see him will go down pit road this time by, and indeed he does go down pit road with Harrison Tylan and David Westergreen. The problem that I'm seeing here, at least that's the first time though, Mike, that we see anybody spin off of turn 4. We usually see him spin off of 1 and 2, but guess that's a different situation. We do have a split though on pit road that does include Westergreen, who's just pitted. You see Gerald Campbell also decided to pit it. Storm Patterson joins this group as well. Harrison Tylan and Steven Schumann. So a lot of these guys, Mike, are playoff drivers trying to at least find some sort of a strategy, maybe get around this first time. There are no tire sets, so at least in terms of going down pit road, this won't hurt them too bad. Only will give them fresh rubber to gain position. So now you got to wonder here in this second race, is there more desperation for these guys in the playoff situation that didn't do well in the first race? Because now you've probably put yourself in a little bit of a points hole considering how the results went in that first race. And do you start now being a little more desperate for position, being a little more desperate and being more aggressive for racing around drivers here?
I think we're going to see the aggressiveness ramp up, especially some of those playoff drivers that didn't get quite the finishes that they wanted to in heat number 1. And I think maybe the other part of this strategy of, especially, again, some of the guys that were running towards the tail end of the field that dove down pit road here as the field's bunching up to go back to green flag racing. This race is kind of mirroring what heat number 1 did as well. As we got a couple cautions early, then we kind of had that long green flag run. And if that happens, maybe some of these guys saw how Barney held off Ryan Lutz for the most part from most of that green-white checkered. So if they take 2 tires later, they're not going to have 37 or 35 lap old tires on the left side. They're going to have 28 lap old tires on the left side. That could play a huge difference if they decide to take 2 tires later on in this race. So it could be all part of a strategy, but we'll find out how this is going to play out as the pace truck's going to dive on pit road. We're going to go back green flag racing here in lap number 11 of the ID Racing 75. And Austin Beers, a short track kid, he's doing awesome on those restarts as they dive down in turn number 1. It's going to be Beers, Isabella, and Edwards, your top 3 coming out of turn 2. And here we go down the dog legs. They're going to cut it. And Beers didn't cut it, but everyone else behind him did. And right now, Vincent Isabella is trying to make that charge up to the front, but he's also got some heat behind. Oh, maybe a little contact between the 42 and 52. That's going to slow them both up. It's now 3 wide with the 00 Barney and Gooden on the outside. Heat number 1 winner, as they're still going to be 3 wide going down into turn number 1. As they've so far so good as they're going to dive down in the dog leg. This is where things can get a little hairy here. We've seen it earlier in heat number 1, and Barney works his way up from 11th all the way up into that second position. He's going to try to hunt down his teammate, the 3 truck of Austin Beers.
Yeah, a fantastic move to the inside by the 00, and Isabella and Gooden pretty much had to brace for impact along with Gabriel Edwards, but he falls back to 7th. Watch the driver who wrecked on the opening lap of the first race. Blaze McKinney is now back in this fight. We've seen him perform at Phoenix in some of the leagues, or at least I have, in terms of covering, and you see him now to the inside of Vincent Isabella, almost making contact as Isabella shuts the door merely to the 87, but there's a lot of battling here. Here comes Ryan Lutz as well, trying to pick his way back up through the field. He's trying to be aggressive, but remember, these two are all fighting for as much position as they can as they're 3 wide. Blaze McKinney gets turned.
And a caution comes out, and McKinney, for the most part, able to save it. So what a piece of driving by Blaze McKinney in that 87 truck. That was an awesome piece of driving. I think he spun around just enough to bring out the caution, but he was able to keep it back going straight. As he makes a little bit of contact, I think he slides up. Or here he slides up down the backstretch. You see, going in turn number 1, almost 3 wide. Just kind of, I think, room kind of closed up on McKinney as they were diving in behind him. So we ride the onboard camera. Look at that wheel. Oh, he's turning it.
Wow.
And wow, able to keep it straight. Kind of doing a little bit of a drifting action there. So maybe some 4 fresh tires for that 87 truck. He should be able to keep on going. And man, some of these guys are showing speed. And I think a lot of these guys answered your question you asked under the last caution. Are they going to be more aggressive? I think from what we just seen, oh yeah, they are.
Yeah, they definitely have been, but I'm noticing that the aggression is not necessarily coming out of full playoff drivers. You see a couple drivers trying to go down pit road. Glenn Bundren fakes out Storm Patterson, but look at the guys on pit road. Dylan Gooden, Ryan Lutz, Gabriel Edwards, Damian Leininger, there's McKinney, David Westergreen, and a handful of others behind them. So this is a split strategy here, Mike. This is going to be even more interesting now that these drivers are going to have fresh tires. I think some of the other ones that pitted earlier, like Westergreen and Talon, they're going to have even more fresh tires and be on equal footing. But for these guys, this is going to be a very big call for the end of this race, especially if we stay green.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think your top 3, those ID racing trucks, they're all on the original set of tires, 16-lap-old tires. Again, not all green flag laps, so they might not be the worst for the wear, but a lot fresher tires for that 37 truck of Glenn Bundren Jr. in 4th, Storm Patterson in 5th, and Gerald Campbell in 6th. So it could be interesting to see if we do get some green flag racing in, how these pit stops are going to play out. You know, if we get a little bit longer of a green flag run here to kind of wind out this heat, what are those top 3 trucks going to do? Or if they're able to even hold on to that track position as well. But you know, in this heat so far, we're seeing a lot of different styles of pit strategy from the get-go, where it didn't happen really until heat 1, until that final caution came out. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will unfold, as I believe the first car that won the race off pit road is that 75 truck of Dylan Gooden. He's back in the 8th position. Ryan Lutz in 9th, and Gabriel Edwards, he's now all the way back into the 10th spot. So we're going to restart here, coming to lap number 18. Austin Beers is your leader. Blake Barney worked his way up into that 2nd position. See if he can work his way up to the lead, as he was a man on a mission. You know, I think he felt like he had a really good shot at winning heat number 1 before that contact from Ryan Lutz that sent him around and caused the mayhem to end heat number 1. We'll see how crazy heat number 2 gets as Austin Beers leads him to the green flag. And here we go. Austin Beers doing what he's always been doing so far in this heat, getting a great restart as he's going to file ahead of his teammate in that 00 truck. And they're going to dive down to turn 1. But right now, Vincent Isabella is trying to fight off those guys with the fresher tires, as he's got Storm Patterson. And the 12 truck of Damian Leininger goes around. And it looked like he might have collected another truck in that fray as well. It might be a little damage on the 2 truck of David Westergreen, as he's continuing to have some bad luck here tonight. But it doesn't appear to be too much damage as they dive down into turn 1. I think it's just another thing as the theme of the night coming out of 2 with those cold tires. Spins it around. Oh yeah, the 2 truck just making contact with the rear end of the 12. And to see, wow, what a drive by Harrison Talion to stay off of the 12 truck. But Westergreen not as lucky. See the back bumper cam here of Damian Leininger. And it just, on those cold tires, just getting a little bit too much throttle, those rear tires just want to go around on you. And bam, makes that contact. But luckily for everyone else, besides the 2 truck of David Westergreen, they were all able to get around unscathed. But yeah, tough break for a playoff driver for the 2 truck of Westergreen here again tonight. He's probably gonna have to make some repairs to that 2 truck to get back to a competitive speed. But I'm still surprised to see those top 3. I suppose we didn't get a full green flag lap in, but the top 3 are kind of making their bed of staying out on these old tires. But so far, it's working for them.
Yeah, so far it definitely is working, but we also don't have enough green flag laps for the drivers on fresh tires to start catching up and gaining position. We're seeing those moves already, and for Damian Leininger, it was just a situation of him going around with the rear tires, and we talked about it already. The cold tires, it's not easy to really get up on them and start rushing them, start outperforming them immediately once you get them, because remember, they're still cold. You haven't heated them up yet on the racetrack, so when you try to put in the throttle, it's not necessarily easy to hold on to it. Is exactly what the 12 had to deal with. So for everybody in the fresh tires, they're pretty much just waiting for the point where things go green here, Mike, because if you continue to get these yellows, that call on the fresh tires will basically be useless because the field will continue to be frozen. Caution clock will continue to get less and less in terms of the risk of it coming out later. And then at that point, you're just mired back on the field. Whatever position you get, maybe get 1 or 2, maybe lose 1 or 2. But at that point, you're not really making a large net gain, and that's probably a concern for guys like Gooden and the rest of the guys behind.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out and see if those fresh tires can work their way up to the front. As you know, if I were a playoff driver, I think if I was Vincent Isabella, I might have. He was having a hard time fighting off Patterson and Bundren on that restart. Able to stay ahead when the caution did come out, but he had his work ahead of him. But we'll see what he can do, and his ID Racing teammates on that front row can do as the pace truck dives down pit road. And we're going to take the green flag here on lap number 22 of 38 of the ID Racing 75 here at Phoenix. Round number 1 of the playoffs, and going down into turn number 1, Austin Beers getting a huge jump here this time by, as Blake Barney's going to dive down here. But again, Vincent Isabella has got all he can handle from that 63 and 37. Put the 37 truck into the 3rd spot as they dive down into, ooh, maybe not, ooh, a hard dive bomb in there for the 42 truck as Bundren gets washed up the racetrack. And we'll see if they come on a 4. Looks like 3 wide. Here comes Gerald Campbell and Ryan Lutz. Is it going to be 4 wide? Ooh, Lutz thinks the better of it this time as they go around turn number 1, 42, 6, and 37, 3 wide. And oh, Vincent Isabella gets loose, gets into Bundren, and gets off. Bundren gets off the 4 wheels, able to keep it going. And oh, there's heavy damage. No caution. And the 37 looks like his night's gonna be over. So those tires, old tires, did not work for the 42 as he's gonna fall all the way back into the 12th position and move Ryan Lutz up into 3rd as he's gonna try to catch up to those guys in the top 2. But you gotta kind of wonder. You think the Vincent Isabella staying out on those older tires that might have gave him a little bit of disadvantage, trying to drive in a little harder than he maybe should have there?
It definitely is. When you have those older tires, you cannot dive it as deep in the corner. You cannot be as basically confident with the aggression of the race car, and that's exactly what happened there. But just trying to be in the middle 3 wide, fighting in those positions, it's not easy to really hold on to your truck, especially with the pressure around you. So unfortunately for Isabella, ended up getting damaged himself, fell through the running order, and of course got caught with Glenn Bundren. And for Bundren, he did not go around, so it won't be a yellow flag. But Ryan Lutz is pretty much bullying his way through the field. You saw him in that last group going about 3 wide, almost looked at 4, and now he is right on the back bumper of Austin Beers for the 2nd spot. Willing to use that bumper if needed, but he's still going to try and push him out of the way out of turn 2. He may have it to the inside of the dog leg, and we may have ourselves yet again another fantastic battle for first if Lutz is able to catch up to Blake Barney and get by the 3 first.
Yeah, he's going to work his way around the 3 as I think the 3 is trying to block. The 36 is trying to move him out of the way. It's the short track kid versus the bad boy here. And this is going to be an intense battle for that second position, as this is the best thing Blake Barney can see as we're grinding down with about 12 laps to go. 11 and a half, mark it down as they go down the back dog leg. Look like Beers got a little loose. This might be the opening that Ryan Lutz needed to get that second position, and it looks like he'll do so, diving down into turn 3. But Beers is going to try to make contact with the 36. Wasn't quite able to shake the 36 truck, give that second spot to Ryan Lutz as he gets by him there, as that was an intense battle for the second spot, but able to pull away is that 00, about a 1.5 second lead, as we are getting close to 10 laps to go here, Kenneth. And you got to wonder, does the 36 truck and even maybe that 6 truck of Gerald Campbell on those fresher tires, do they have enough time to chase down that 00?
I'm not necessarily sure, because the gap is about 1.3 seconds. He has to make a lot of time in the short amount of time on the racetrack in terms of laps in order to make this happen. It's about 9 laps until he can get to the start-finish line and cross into the checkered flag. So he's got to make up this gap now. It's about 1.2. He's made up a 10th that last time by, but he has to make up a lot more if he wants to catch up to Blake Barney and make a battle for this heat win. So at this point, you got to wonder if you're that 36, looking at the lap counter and seeing maybe if he has enough time to catch up. And for guys like Gerald Campbell, Dylan Gooden, this is their chance to gain some well-needed positions before this is said and done. But at least for Barney, it's going to be all about hitting his marks and making sure he limits his mistakes.
Yeah, currently now dwindled down to about a second of 1 second lead over Ryan Lutz. And, you know, they always say it's one thing to catch him, it's another thing to pass him, but we've seen what that 36 truck can do on that last lap. He bombed it in to the turn number 3, made contact with the 00. So maybe more fireworks are going to be underway as we wind down here in heat number 2, as we have 8 laps to go, or 7.5 again, as they're diving down in that dog leg. And 0.8 seconds, mark it down for Ryan Lutz. He's digging hard, but you got to wonder how much of those good tires is he using up trying to catch that 00? Is he going to use up his stuff? Are things going to kind of equalize out between the 00 and 36? If I don't think the caution clock, I was going to just say that, I don't think that's going to be in play, will it?
No, it definitely won't. It's too close to the end of this race. We haven't gone green that long, so we're expecting to stay green all the way to the end. Now I'm watching the lap times between Ryan Lutz and Blake Barney, and Ryan Lutz is about a 10th faster, but he is kind of slowing up, so it is equalizing between these two in terms of lap time. We'll take about it last time by. Now it's still about a 10th, so at least that last time for Ryan Lutz, it was a lot more consistent with the last lap than it was for Barney, who pretty much went slower that last time by. So now it's up to about a half of a second now between these two, and you gotta wonder now whether Barney's probably looking in his rearview mirror and trying to brace for impact and maybe make up a defensive plan to hold on to this lead with about 5 laps to go.
Yeah, and no pun intended with Big Kitty on board for that 00 truck, but maybe a cat and mouse game between Lutz and Barney. Maybe not deciding who's the cat, who's the mouse in this scenario. Maybe Barney trying to save just a little bit here as well, and as that lead pretty much staying around that 0.6 seconds as we hit about 5 laps to go. So maybe Lutz used a little bit too much of that fresh rubber as we're winding down, as we're going to hit the line with 4 laps to go. And I think, as if all things stand, but we might even have lap traffic play into the equation, as the 4 truck of Chris Jordan, he's about to go a lap down after he got into the inside wall earlier here tonight. And now Lutz is once again digging. Maybe he's turning on the wick a little bit as he's dwindled down to a little under 0.4 seconds as they hit the line. Will it be enough time with 3 laps to go? We're about to find out here and the ID Racing 75.
Yeah, it's getting very close now. He's really starting to reel him in, but that last time off of turn 4, he caught Chris Jordan right at the exit, but there's crashing right behind him. That's Austin Beers who goes around, and this may bring a caution. With about 3 laps to go, we stay green. No yellow flag on the racetrack. I'm surprised that did not reach a yellow flag, and the officials did not call it. 2 laps to go this time by.
2 laps to go, no caution, and I wonder if Lutz even backed off there because he's fallen about a half a second to Blake Barney, our race leader. So that that really kind of maybe messed up some of the drivers after that was a heavy incident there, and surprised that there was no yellow to finish this one off. But it looks like the 00's got to go one more time. Can he actually bring it home this time? We're about to find out as we're going to conclude here the ID Racing 75 heat number 2. And as Blake Barney trying to bring it around, but we're going to see if Ryan Lutz can make one last ditch effort to take the checkered flag as he's diving way down on the inside of the dog leg. This time I don't think he's going to have enough. He was about just as aggressive, but coming to the checkered flag, Big Kitty and Blake Barney take heat win number 2 in the ID Racing 75. You see a little victory slide, victory drift around turn 1 and 2 for Big Kitty and the 00. What a win to stay out on 38 lap old tires to get the victory here in heat number 2.
And you have to wonder, you see there Austin Beers giving a congratulations to his teammate. At least the good news for ID Racing, they get a win in the second heat in their title sponsor race. But I'm not sure exactly why yellow was not called about 3 laps ago with Austin Beers and a handful of others that got involved. Let's try and see exactly what happened there. It was about 3 laps ago going into turn 1, and you can see it a little bit ago. This is between Beers and Leininger coming to about 3 laps ago. They crossed the line here 3 laps ago this time. This is going into 1 and 2. I think Leininger actually dove it deep and got into him. Here's the contact.
Yeah, we've seen earlier in heats. Oh, that hit. Right here almost should have been definitely a yellow. Even Adam Tepe stopped on the racetrack as well to bring, or not to bring out the yellow. So it was very surprising to finish out this heat, but able to go green flag racing is heavy contact by both the 3 and the 96 of Adam Tepe, and even Storm Patterson getting a lot of damage there as well. So surprisingly there was no yellow, but they kept it going green, and Blake Barney was able to get heat win number 2, and Ryan Lutz was able to come home in second and give Gerald Campbell home in 3rd place in heat number 2, so able to get a little bit of those points back after getting involved in that early incident in heat number 2.
And you're taking a look at the unofficial results here as Blake Barney takes the win. Ryan Lutz not there. Tried to send in turn 3 and 4. Did not work. Gerald Campbell to top off the top 3. Both good nights for both Barney and Campbell in terms of the playoffs. Dylan Gooden, Blaze McKinney to end up the top 5. Damian Leininger actually recovers to 6th with that incident. Then Harrison Tylon 7th. Dallas Myhan 8th. Steven Schumann 9th. And Vincent Isabella in the top 10, at least for Steven Schumann. This is going to be a good run to get some well-needed points, and for Vincent Isabella, definitely could have been a lot better.
Yeah, it could have been a lot better before he broke loose and made that contact with Glenn Bundren Jr., and unfortunate for him. So maybe almost an even split. We'll have to see going into next week how the points are going to shake out for those playoff drivers, as it appeared to be a topsy-turvy day for guys in the chase. That's for sure. But to start off with some interviews, we'll bring in actually heat number 1 winner, and that will be Dylan Gooden. And we'll bring in Dylan here as he comes home 4th in heat number 2. Came home in that wild ending in heat number 1. Dylan, you looked like you had some speed. Kind of noticed that you slid through your pit box on one of those pit stops in heat number 1. That might have been just able to put you into that spot to avoid all that mess and get yourself heat number 1 victory. But how did you get through there just enough to get that win?
Well, I don't know. So yeah, I did slide through my box on, I think, that last pit stop, but I ended up only losing 1 spot, and that put me on the outside, which was the perfect spot for me to be when they all decided to wreck there at the end. I mean, I saw them wrecking, and I was, playing with the throttle, and at that point, I mean, it's just iRacing. There's nothing you can do, and plowed through them and kept my foot in it, and I was coming to the line. I saw them coming, and I was like almost at the chip in 3rd gear, and I left it there. And when we got to the line, I didn't even know if I won. So it was just awesome. It's so awesome to win like that.
It was a wild finish, and then coming home 4th in heat number 2. Do you think if maybe if you had maybe another caution, do you think you maybe could have performed a sweep, or do you think you had anything for Blake Barney and Ryan Lutz?
No, they were the best two trucks today by far. I mean, I probably on that second heat was for sure at least third place. Well, third or fourth. The 87 was pretty quick, but I mean, we had speed. We just weren't up there with those top two guys. They were dominant all night, and it took them being a little naughty for us to steal the win. But I mean, consistency it's key. You know, you just gotta try to keep your nose clean and take what you can get.
Yeah, and good two top 5 runs again. Heat win number 1. Awesome job in that wild one. Kenneth, you got anything for Dylan here tonight?
Well, I mean, I think you nailed down the questions. Just that big question was basically how it felt to go through that as the seas parted right in front of you. But at least with the way Phoenix is, and at least since you're running and at least trying to run well in this series, and again, you walk away with a 4th place finish and a win in the first heat. Again, how is this consistency going to help you now into Texas and when we go to Kentucky in the final races of the season to try and give you some momentum for next season?
I mean, it's all just about having fun, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not in the points championship race or anything, and I've just come in here and I practice a little bit and I qualify and I run up front, and it's just all about having fun. When I stress out too much about these races is when I really don't do well. So it's just having fun. So hopefully we can run well the last few races here, and I mean we've been pretty consistent so far, and we'll see what we got next year. I think we're going to be one to watch next year when we start the new season.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that for sure, as you put on some strong performance when you have shown up here in the OSCA Truck Series in this first season. But before we send you off, any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out to Castle Motors, your friend in the car business, and my girlfriend Daddy. I appreciate her watching and appreciate you guys too.
Sounds good. Thank you, and awesome win in heat number 1, and we'll see you next week at Texas.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Again, that was Dylan Gooden, heat number 1 winner. And up next, we'll bring in the guy who finished 3rd spot in heat number 2, and that's going to be Gerald Campbell. And Gerald, able to finish up front in heat number 3. Looked like you're almost going to be in the top 3 in that heat number 1 before the mayhem ensued. Describe a little bit of your night on how wild it was.
It was it was something. Disappointing, but able to muster in a good finish in the second half. Definitely started in the back, so had to try to work some strategy and had to push hard to get the good run that I had at the second part of it. But yeah, the first half was, man, when they got into each other, I thought, boy, there they go. And then I'm coming back up down the racetrack, and I'm like, well, there I go. And then that's about how it went. I don't know if anyone in the top 5 even finished in the top 10. It was it's kind of what you expect at these end of these things. It's kind of getting into a habit. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It was wild. Yeah, I don't think anyone that did finish that was running, at least in the top 4, finished in the top 5 of heat number 1. But yeah, it looked like, all night long you had that decent speed where, you started kind of towards the back or running towards the back for, a good chunk of the race, able to work your way up, put yourself in contention in heat number 1, and again did the same thing in heat number 3. It looks like you might be a hard out for this championship. You might have broke even with Vincent Isabella here tonight, but still got to be feeling pretty good about your chances going into next week at Texas.
Yeah, like I never look at points, but yeah, it was a decent night. Definitely wish I could have gone back. I don't know what I could have done because the whole track was blocked at that point, but yeah, I don't know what I could have done for the first finish, but yeah, no, it's going to be a good run. We'll see what we got at Texas. Is it the new Texas or is it the old Texas?
I believe not sure offhand. but I think it might be the new Texas. So that
All right, well, well, I had fun tonight, and we're gonna leave it at that.
yeah, I know how that goes. For those of you out there listening, the new Texas is not the preferred Texas to to be on with
Yeah, we need
the
to go back
flat
in
1 and 2.
time. Go back in
Yeah.
time. Let's go back to old Texas at this point. But yeah, no, we'll see. I've had a decent speed at the 1.5 miles, but I don't know what you would list Texas at. It's not really a intermediate as what the other ones are. It's more like I don't know, throw up at this point. But yeah, no, we'll see what we got going into Texas. Maybe I'll figure it out finally over there. But don't put too much into that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Maybe if you guys are lucky, you get to talk to me again.
All right, but before we send you off, Kenneth, you have anything for Gerald here tonight?
No, I think you've pretty much nailed it, and I think a lot of people can share the same opinion about the new Texas. I think a lot of us on sim racing in real life know that the old Texas, the bumpy Texas, is easily the best one, 1,000%.
Oh yeah, you got to respect the bumps, man. That's hard racing when you get those bumps and everything. That's why these flat tracks, I kind of like the old Phoenix too. This track was so smooth; it was just so hard to complete a run or complete a pass at the when you get these tires worn in. So definitely go into Texas with maybe a mindset of just trying to finish it. That'll at least get you in the top 10 in a lot of these races. So yeah, other than that, guys, you guys have a good night, and no shout outs for tonight. Just having fun.
All right, sounds good. We'll send you off here tonight, and good luck next week at Crappy Texas.
Yeah, crappy Texas. Yeah, see you guys.
Yeah, me too. That was Gerald Campbell coming home in the 3rd spot here tonight in heat number 2, and again getting involved in that crazy incident in heat number 1. And next we'll bring in the winner of heat number 2 and almost coming home with that win in heat number 1. It's going to be the 00 truck of Blake Barney, and not to leave out Big Kitty there as well. But we see Big Kitty being a bigger presence on your car here tonight, Blake, and just about probably less than a quarter mile away from pulling off a sweep. You were showing some good speed out here tonight, Blake.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said at the beginning of the season, I like the short tracks. They always play well to me, and had a fast truck all night. That first race was interesting. I took 2 tires. Big Kitty made that call, but I took 2, and I don't know. It didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, because I definitely didn't have the speed to stay up front. But I don't know. That move on the last lap was questionable, but that's racing. And in the second race, I was glad me and Lutz could have a good battle there. I stayed out the whole race on those tires. He pit early, and I was kind of trapped there, and he really made me run my butt off to stay away from him. But thankfully, I was able to hold him off. So, all in all, pretty good race.
Yeah, and usually we see some fireworks when you and Ryan Lutz are kind of battling out for these wins. Were you at all surprised that he made that contact going into 3 on heat number 1, and did you even think that if he got to your bumper in heat number 2 that he might do the same thing?
Yeah, I definitely in heat number 1, I knew it was coming on the last lap. He had a lot of gap to make up though, so it was hard for him to make the move. He really gassed it up, and I was kind of caught off guard by it. But the second race, I definitely was nervous that the same move was happening again. But I think he was far enough back to where he couldn't really do anything. So I just had to expect it, and like you said, at the end of the day, however you want to see it or call it, I always have good races with him. Whenever he comes in, it's a lot of fun. So I can't complain.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining to watch when you two guys are out on the racetrack. Kenneth, you got anything for Blake?
Well, I think this is good news considering that ID Racing gets a win in their title sponsor race, the ID 70 Racing 75. But I think the bigger picture comes, and I know I didn't necessarily ask Joe Campbell this because he's mostly concerned about having fun, and at least he hasn't paid attention too much to the points. But as for the championship, now you go into Texas. It's only 2 races as opposed to maybe 3 usually. So how do you kind of fare with that, knowing you got a win here, a decent finish, at least in terms of Heat 1, things didn't go so well at the end. But going into Texas, how do you think you'll fare in terms of trying to get to the Championship 4 and win the title?
Yeah, I mean the win is huge, and the other guy that won the other race isn't in the chase, so that's big too. I'm not, like I said, the short tracks is where I make my money, and the mile and a halves, I'm getting better at them. I think we'll have a decent car, but definitely won't be as dominant as I am at the short tracks. So I was glad I could get the win tonight, in case I could fall back on that if stuff doesn't go right next week. Definitely gonna have to do some practice laps at Kentucky though for that final race, because it's a tough track. But oh no, I'm happy with that, wherever we're going. We got me and Vince ID Racing in the playoffs, and along with a couple other guys, David Westergreen. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and so far so good with you and Big Kitty out there getting that victory and setting yourself up to make to that final race at Texas, or I'm sorry, at Kentucky. But any shout-outs you want to give here tonight?
Just ID Racing, for supporting me. McConeySetupShop.com to go get your setups there. And halfway about through the season, we got a new crew chief, Big Kitty, and we've had a lot of success. So just shout out to him.
Yeah, Big Kitty, of course. And actually, one thing we were talking about, me and Kenneth, we've seen, as Kenneth said, a bigger presence of Big Kitty on your car as the season's gone along here. So, now that, it looks like you're, locked into Kentucky with the win, are you going to do like a Corey LaJoy, like Big Kitty, big face all over the hood? Is that what's next for Big Kitty?
I don't know what's next, but I like change. I've had a couple schemes this season. I like changing it up, and it's all for a good laugh. Big Kitty's actually my cat. So yeah, he's been around forever. He's like old as shit. He's like 17 years old.
Oh wow. So
yeah.
That's why he's so wise at making a lot of these pit calls, and it looked like those tires almost worked out for you.
Yeah, he's been around racing for a while, so he definitely makes the right calls.
So yeah, at least you got that advantage going into Kentucky with Big Kitty on top of that pit box. So again, congratulations on the win in heat number 2, and good luck to you next week at Texas.
Yeah, thanks guys. You guys do a great job. Love watching it.
Thank you. And that was Blake Barney giving a little bit of shout out and that love to Big Kitty as he was able to take him into victory lane in heat number 2. And again, with a lot of these playoff drivers, Kenneth, again, having one good heat versus one kind of mediocre to bad heat, I think the playoff points are going to be, we'll have to see how this all unfolds when we go into Texas next week. But I think things are going to be real tight for that final cutoff race before we head to the season championship in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's going to be insane, and especially as you look forward to the rest of this season, and especially how things are going to roll out. And you see it right here with the last 2 that we have left, or the last 2 that we did have left. Now we just have 1 to conclude until we get to the Championship 4. We capped off tonight at Phoenix. Next week we go to Texas, and then in about 2 weeks' time after that, we go to Kentucky to round out, or at least, yes, we do end up on the other side and get around to Kentucky. So that's going to be a very, very big race, and I think next week Texas is going to be even bigger, Mike, because we've seen the chaos of the 1.5 milers. We're probably going to see the same sort of chaos at Texas as well, especially with the desperation needed to get into the Championship 4. So it's going to be a lot of fun here, and especially when we get to Kentucky, we're going to have a massive championship battle on our hands.
Yeah, it's gonna really intensify, and I can't wait till Texas next week. I think it almost plays out very well for the intensity of this playoffs, with not a lot of people liking that new track layout. So it's almost like an even playing field of guys just not really liking to race there. So it should be fun to watch and see who does come out on top, who does perfect that new Kentucky layout, or sorry, new Texas layout. But for some upcoming events right here on KBRN. This Friday, April 16th, that's tomorrow, forgot how late in the week we are. It's the CRL Cup Series, and that's race number 9 from Richmond. That'll be at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time right here on KBRN Network. And of course, next Thursday will be the OSCA Truck Series race number 12, as we just talked about, at Texas Motor Speedway, and that'll be the Cystic Fibrosis Awareness 114, and that'll be Thursday, April 22nd at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time. But with that, for Vic Bloom and Dallas Myhand at the OSCA Truck Series, and for Charlie Baier at the KBRN Network, and for my colleague up in the booth, Kenneth Bueno, I'm Mike Goodman. Thank you all for watching tonight's broadcast from the Phoenix Raceway, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday night from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Have a good night.